Sunday Night Chat, Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend. I don't know. Let's talk about that, I suppose. Whew, I've been kind of somber and surly like the last, I don't know, 36 hours or so. Memorial Day is an important time. I mean, it's interesting. When you're young, you might not get it. I mean, if you had parents or family members that served in the military, maybe you understand a little bit when you're young. I was around that when I was young, but the adults weren't at that time. Excuse me. People weren't as vocal about their service and what they went through and all that when I was young. They kind of kept it from you, unless you were just the guys, right? It seemed like adults respected children being children back then. Like they kept that sort of thing from the kids being heard. Yeah, I'm talking about suffering, death, uh, the politics of war, uh, conversations about why we got into some wars, and all those sorts of things. A lot of those serious conversations weren't had around the children. In an effort for your children to have a childhood, for better or worse, whatever your own personal opinion on it is, doesn't matter. That's kind of how it was, at least when I came up. Today, everything's out there, So kids are hearing and privy to a lot of things that, you know, I don't know. That's a weird one too, because if you think back on time, the country's coming up on 250 years, right? And 250 years ago, 12-year-old girls were getting married, married. Uh, 15 years old as a boy, you'd be getting married. It was a different world. If there's a war going on your own soil, like the Revolutionary War or the Civil War that happened here, well, then kids grow up real fast. They see it. Kids around the world today, think of the Middle East comes to mind, places in Africa, all over the world. The kids grow up pretty fast. Kids can take a lot. And boys are vicious. You can give an 8-year-old a gun, a 9-year-old a gun, and put them out there, and they'll just do it. It's child soldiers are a thing. My father was a child soldier, left home at 9 years old for 4 years. So I don't know. I think the ideals of America were good, and there was that time when adults were trying to allow their kids to have a childhood. So yeah. But anyhow, I'm kind of getting deep here today, I suppose. When I was high school age and I was, living at the Jersey Shore, working on the boardwalk every summer, April, Easter time, April, May, for sure you're working in the stands already. And this is the weekend. This is the kickoff to the summer. And that's when everybody's having a good time. And at the Jersey Shore, at a tourist town, that was great. Let's kick off the summer, man. Just starting, and you're going to have a good friggin' time. The beach, surfing, you're working, and you're working hard. Sometimes you're pulling double shifts and all that for not a lot of money. $4 an hour or something. It was ridiculous. I remember getting paid $6 an hour at one point, working on the boardwalk. That might have been when I came home from the Marines, actually. But, it was the Jersey Shore. It was the 1980s, man. Like, you could still love Bruce Springsteen then. Born in the USA record was a thing. It was girls in crochet bikinis. Crochet bikinis, remember them? It was a wild time. It was awesome. Kick off the summer, beautiful time. Then you age. You go into service. Some people come out. Some people end up going to war. You see all that. People lose their friends. when you become a man, like you're grown up, then you start talking to guys that were around you when you were young who served in war, and they start talking to you like a man and start telling you what they went through then at that time. Then Memorial Day starts to take on another meaning. And for me, it's a somber weekend. I don't do anything. I typically stay home and think about it. And I watch a lot of old flicks, man. Turner Classic Movies, every Memorial Day, the whole weekend, they play a bunch of these old flicks. And, you know, not all of them are geared towards the. A good one would be, I watched it last night. Was last night? Yeah, last night. I think it was last night. Yeah, I watched a couple flicks last night. But the last one I watched was Sergeant York with Gary Cooper. That's a good one to watch. That's a real good one to watch. Because it starts from 1916 or something when he's a kid in Tennessee and rabble rouser and doing all this crazy stuff, and he finds religion and saves himself, and then the war happens, and he wants to be a conscientious objector, but the characters in that and the way people lived and the way they portrayed the Appalachia is pretty crazy the way they did that with the lingo, the dialect, and everything. But there's a lot of patriotism in that, and a lot of good messaging, and it really drives home a lot of the important things to be thinking about for Memorial Day. Now, a lot of people don't think about it at all. It's another day off, 3-day weekend for a lot of people. Everybody's taking vacations and visiting family and having barbecues and all that. And it's good. And it's good. Like, even the people that have a lot to think about because they experienced all these experiences, they want to use Memorial Day as an escape as well and have some drinks and all that. Whatever you got to do, man. It's your life. But for me, I like to sit back and watch these flicks, and also here's my. A lot of you guys aren't into this, but I've got this thing in my brain with this reincarnation thing and everything, and I don't know what it is. I've talked to you guys about it before, but something about World War II, that era, the era leading up to it, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, like in that range there, but in particular World War II, and in particular the European theater films. It does something to me. It's very strange. It's very emotional for me. Like I was there. That's all I'm saying. I can't prove that. I'm just saying I have that very strong tie with that. And I think I shared this before. It bothers me too because having been a Marine, I'm really big on the Pacific theater and knowing about that and the island hopping campaign, and read a bunch of books on that over the years, and so it's weird that I have this stronger tie to the European theater. At any rate, that's what I do. And I get kind of somber and I keep to myself and I just go through a process. I get a little bit down in the doldrums a little bit. That's just me. But what happens then is if I'm kind of somber and then something else, I see something else that might trigger me. It's a new word we have now, this word triggering. It was not part of my lexicon growing up. Never once used it. It was where I come from. It set you off would be the terminology. If something sets me off, something sets me off. Don't set that guy off. Be careful around him. You're gonna set him off. It's like a firecracker or something. Now it's triggering. Okay. Well, then I could be surly. So this whole weekend, the last 36 hours or so, is all about being somber and surly. And I don't like me like that. This is not the me that you like. It's not good. It's cool. It's good I'm talking about it. You get off my chest. Today I'll try to watch more upbeat World War II flicks, like the fantasy ones, like Kelly's Heroes comes to mind. I'll watch that tonight for sure. But because what's happening now, and it's just so aggravating, because it's and I wrote this before. I guess it was, I'm not even sure when it was. It could have been months ago. It's probably in November or something, or even before that. But we're living in this period of time in the United States where it's like the biggest "I told you so" ever. Uh, and it's aggravating because we just keep getting, when I say we, I'm talking those of us who, I suppose if you were to hammer us down, we're not, I wouldn't say we're Republicans. We're certainly not Democrats, you know. We're more conservative minded, patriotic minded, but really common sense people. People whose brains work. People who, when there's mass hysteria, step back and think about it and look around and try to find out what's really going on. People who see the crowd coming in and when everybody's jumping off the bridge, I'm not jumping off the bridge, right? So when the media is telling me a bunch of crazy shit, I'm gonna be like, well, let me look into that and see how true that is. and and I've been talking about it here forever, and I could go all the way back, all the way back. I'd go back to even before I was born and talk about how this country is not just our country, but the leaders of countries all over the planet. We can go back thousands of years, talk about people lying. We can get into religion and what I think the creation of that was really about. All of it. Control. Control the populace. Control the masses. Lead them along. For whatever, maybe in some cases, nefarious purposes, we might not ever know a lot of it, but we do know a lot of it now. And I remember when Obama came along, and I was like, who is this guy? I didn't know anything about this guy. I think he was a senator for 183 days or something, and he was running for office. So I looked him up at the time, and I was like, huh. So his mother, his father, his stepfather, and his grandparents are all either self-admitted socialists or communists. All of them went to the little red church there, you know. That was the fodder for his brain, right? That's what his brain was fed on, a steady diet of communism, socialism. And I read that and I looked into it a little bit. And he had his book, you know, and he talks in his book. He says, you know, he sought out those types of people and all that. And that's all I knew about him at the time. And I remember telling people, this guy is not going to be a good president for the United States of America because that's antithetical to the Constitution. Doesn't make any sense. How can you have a guy born and raised within a framework of communism going to be president of the United States? So I made all these predictions at the time, right? And I said, you know what's going to happen? I think this is what's going to happen. I think we're probably going to get involved in some more war. I think our debt's going to go crazy. I think there's going to be a bunch of spending, a bunch of crazy programs, and the bureaucracy will grow, and the country will go deeper into debt, and we'll have inflation, and everything I said happened. And I was just some guy sitting here building furniture. I wasn't even as pathetic as I am now, where I'm sitting alone talking on my phone. This is pathetic that I do this when you think about it. I'm getting mad at myself now. And that's just one example, okay? And during that presidency, let me just remind you, you had the Biden thing. And Biden, one of the most corrupt people ever in history of Washington, D.C. Maybe not the most. Maybe he is. I don't know. There's a lot going on there. But the money he was pulling in through his family members for access to the presidency with Obama and everything else, which is it's all been reported. It was always being reported. But the mainstream media, right, that's owned by people who happen to be leftists, who write the script, right? The people in government that are on the left write the script for the media. They made anybody who talked about any of these things seem like they were crazy or conspiracy theorists and all this other stuff. And the only outlet that you had was Fox News, right? And I guess some talk radio. I'm not a talk radio guy. I don't want to work and have somebody's voice in my head all day. What I liked about Fox back then was that they would have people on that had different points of view on whatever show it was. They have 6 hours or whatever it is a day of that sort of thing. The rest of the day is hard news, just what's going on in the news, like any other news station. But on shows where they had people and panels and things like that, they would always have different points of view back then. So you were getting, and you could watch these conversations and then look it up and see who's reading more true and whatever, and formulated opinion. And when I was watching CNN or MSNBC, which I used to watch a lot of that stuff, or when I did listen, I'd listen to PBS sometimes, or I'd watch that, NPR. I would hear things on there. NPR, the one example I would always give, which was at that time, like when we were in Iraq, uh, I remember there was a story and they had these people on and they were talking about how our military was being like mean to the people of Iraq, you know, basically, for lack of a better phrase. We weren't letting them use the one main highway. And the reason we weren't doing that was because the enemy didn't wear a uniform. You know, they would go out there in civilian clothes and dig little holes and put improvised explosive devices in the ground and then kill our guys. You know, that's why we wouldn't let anybody near the road. But you didn't have a rebuttal. You just had people talk about how mean it was for us to do this. And I'm screaming at the radio like, well, there's a reason for this. That's just one example, but that would happen all day long. You were just hearing one point of view from one side all the time. So I just use those couple quick examples. I don't want to get too into this. I could talk for 6 friggin' hours giving you examples of how we're just lied to all the time, manipulated, and these people are just total crooks. It's insane. And you know, now the thing is now it's all coming about where the media is admitting, oh, so that pandemic thing with that little you know bug that got into all of our bodies was actually, yeah, it was man-made, you know, through the gain of function stuff at the Wuhan lab. Yeah, well, we knew that. We knew it from the beginning. And there was something that happened. When I say I got surly, I'll read this because I feel a little guilty about this, I suppose. Let me just find my page here, my Facebook page. I should have had this up for you already, but because I get a little. I don't want to make people feel bad that got the shot. Right? People that got the jab. I don't want to make you feel bad because it's you were lied to and you believed it, and a lot of you were forced into doing it. If you had government jobs, if you were in the military, all of it. Look what's happened with the military. They kicked a bunch of people out of the military, and now Hegseth is letting them back in because of that. Right? Everything's done a 180. Right? The truth is coming out, but it's not being disseminated by the media in the right way, if you ask my opinion. Well, you're not asking it, but I'm giving it. So they should just come out and say, straight up, we lied to you. This is what we were told to say, and that's what we said, and we're sorry. That's just what they should do. And these people that have been making these salaries of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or $1 million a year, or whatever it is, and all the other deals they got going on and all the money, they should be relegated to the back pages of media history at this point and walk away from their jobs. Find another gig, whatever it is, because you're not trustworthy anymore. The problem is, the big problem for me is what really pisses me off is we knew what the truth always was from the beginning. On every point, by the way. On everything. There's always been the truth is out there from different sources. But you get this stream, this constant stream of propaganda from the media coming from government. And so the masses believe it. And again, the analogy I always use for you guys is you go to the store and you think all the food in there is good for you because it's on the shelf. When in reality, most of the food in the store is poison. It should have a skull and crossbones on the label. So there was this video that popped up. I don't know what this guy's name is. But he was talking to Bill Maher, and they're talking about how now the British and German intelligence knew about the lab, the Wuhan lab. And I posted this on my page, and I said, oh shit, I gotta edit this. I spelled something wrong. I'm just now seeing this. I do this crap all the time because I'm upset. Okay, let's save that. So it should have read, many of us were talking about this at the time, and I wrote many if us. So fat fingers, the meaty mitts I got here. So many of us were talking about this at the time. We were called racist and conspiracy theorists. Stupid people laughed at us. But we didn't get the jabs, and we're healthier because of it. Those of you who went along with all that crap should really be rethinking how smart you think you are. You should be going after the people who lied to us all. You should be pulling your heads out of your asses, We told you so, and you just called us names. And that was a little harsh. It was a little hard. Although I'll tell you, I expected to lose people on that, and I actually gained a new person today, who I know already, so that was nice. But I ain't getting mean faces or thumbs down or anything like that. The people who are liking it or supporting it and their supportive comments there, but I just want to apologize, I suppose, if I made you feel a little guilty. Or made you feel bad. I don't like making people feel bad. It's not my thing. But it's just right now, like this Jake Tapper imbecile, right? He's coming out. He co-wrote a book with a guy, and they're talking about how basically the White House hoodwinked them, pulled the wool over their eyes. We didn't know how bad Biden was. Well, the right? People on Fox News, people on alternative media. When Joe Rogan would have people on his show and they were just talking about stuff, if Biden came up, they were talking about how there's something wrong with this guy. He's got a cognitive deficiency. Something clearly is going on with him. Can't stand up. He falls upstairs. He falls off his bike. He falls down. He's shaking the hands to invisible people. He's like people. The friggin' Easter Bunny had to save him at one point. I mean, how often did he talk to the media? Hardly ever. All right? All his questions were prepared for him, and he had the answers, and he still got it wrong sometimes. Goobly-gock coming out of his mouth, and we're all going, what the hell's going on? The media's like, hey, he's fine. Best ever. Best version of Joe ever. You believed it. A lot of you believed it. A lot of you went along with that. You have no ground to stand on anymore if you were one of those people. If you were one of those people that supported all the BS with the sickness that came out, with the masks. I never wore a mask. I never bought a mask the whole time. And I live in Los Angeles. I wasn't buying into that crap. You know why? Because my brain works. Why isn't your brain working? Why wasn't your brain working? Instead, we had to be careful, about what we were saying online. I got shadow banned. I had people attacking me. I lost friends and family members. To this day, still, we have problems because they believed what they were told. And all I did was say, you're being lied to. And they're like, you're crazy. You're smarter than all the scientists. Yeah, you must be smarter than all the scientists. Oh, yeah, sure. Made fun of. And I just sat back and yeah, make fun of me all you want. I'm not taking that chance. Not doing it. And to me, and I have to be careful about how I say this because the last time I said it, I used all the proper terminology so you knew exactly what I was talking about. And then YouTube demonetized the video. So I can't say it the way I want to say it, but to me, it wasn't the sickness, it was the cure. So, I mean, to me, that's I think that the stuff that the serum injected into the veins of people is really what was making people super sick and taking them out. That's my opinion. Because these globalists, this is not a conspiracy theory. See, this, what's aggravating is, because I have a curiosity in this life and I research all these different things, everything from the UFO stuff and aliens and all that to whatever, the Sasquatch, right? The stuff being sprayed in the atmosphere, all these things. And when you start looking at them, there's a lot of overlapping things. And there's all these stories and then there's people trying to squash it. But you start finding these clips of wealthy people, famous people, powerful people, people in government all over the planet, even at the UN, talking about a lot of these things. Talking about, like I said recently, a couple weeks ago, there was a story out of Britain where they're going to start spraying over the sky to help, cool down the planet. All right, this is stupid and insane. And by the way, I talked about that, and I talked about the core samples, how ice core samples, and in particular when you combine them with ocean floor core samples, because they have microorganisms there at different layers. It always shows that the planet warms first and CO2 follows. But that's not what they tell us. They say, hey, when we look at the core samples, when it was warmer, there was more CO2 in the atmosphere. So they try to convince you that CO2 made the planet warmer. That's not the case. It's not the case. You're being lied to. And some idiot got on my video like, oh, you must know more than the scientists. Yeah, motherfucker. Yeah. It's not that I know more. It's that they're lying to you. They're lying to you. They're always lying to you. They've always been lying to you. And now the truth is coming out. But the way it's being disseminated is they're covering their ass. They're not doing it in a way where it's getting up. They're not highlighting their apologies. All right? And that's what they should be doing. There should be every newspaper in the country should have big headlines saying, and if they're going to, even if they did this, it would be like, we misled you, is what they would say. We misled you. We were told this. We were told that. Well, then you're not journalists. You never were journalists. You don't know what journalism is. Because journalism used to be, people dig up a story. You get in there, you start doing the investigation. There's plenty of journalists who got fired, lost their jobs, they had to go independent on their own because they had stories that they wanted to put out there, and then they were fired for doing so. It's the same thing with Trump, but all the lies. Everything was a lie. People still hate Donald Trump based on an emotional reaction that they have to lies that were told about him that have already been proven to not be true. But they can't let the emotion go. This is how sinister this whole thing is. And it's funny because I went to college, I studied all the psych in college and everything, and we know how the brain works, man. And the government's spent billions of dollars on all these programs studying how humans think. They know exactly how to manipulate us. It's very simple, actually. And I explain it all the time. It's so easy for me to do so. I'll do it for you right now. Here's something that's actually taken place. Here's video footage of something taking place that maybe it's violence or something like that. People are hitting somebody else or whatever it is. They're showing you real images. While they're showing you that, there's a voiceover where they're narrating it, and that's when they program you, because they're going to show you an image that's going to be emote emotion. You're going to You're going to get angry or sad, and then there's a narrative being pumped into your brain at that very moment. And so now you attach that emotion with the messaging, and that's how they get you to believe bullshit. That's why it's called programming on television. It's what they've been doing to us forever. I've been telling you people this forever, and now they're coming out and they're finally admitting everything, but they're not doing it well enough because we still have these stupid arguments with one another, and it's crazy. It's crazy. If you're one of those people that have been on that side, for you, it's that side. This is my right, your left. Those people that argued with me and everything else about all this stuff, it's crazy. And you remember, like, what's coming out too is the election, the 2020 election, because we know that was rigged. It was rigged. It totally was. A bunch of people ran out. No, the numbers. No, come on, dude, stop it. All right. The whole reason we had that disease that happened was for that purpose of rigging that election and taking out that president at that time. That's what that was for, because he scared the crap out of him. And now there's this thing. Everybody's waking up. Oh, wait a second. We were lied to. We're lied to about all these things. Now they're admitting it, but they're admitting it in a way where, oh, well, we didn't know, or they told us this, and they have actually said certain things. Some of these guys in interviews have said things where it's like, they're basically saying, they gave us the script. We read the script that they told us to read. So it's their fault. They're talking about people in government, bureaucrats and people in power that told them what to say. They're not taking responsibility for not doing their job as a journalist should be doing their job. They have zero credibility. And I was saying the whole time, and this goes all the way back to Obama during that period of time when all the crazy stuff was going on when he was in, and they were saying this stuff. I'm like, that's not how that works. There's no common sense there whatsoever. You understand you're being lied to? It's been a crazy 10, 12 years now of all this nonsense, and now it's coming out. So I'm very happy that things are coming out. And I don't want to be that guy like, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. But a lot of people out there need to have their noses rubbed in it, man. We can't just let it go. Okay, yeah, you should all apologize. I've gotten a couple emails like that, by the way. And this one guy, but when Trump was running the first time, and he was watching all the left wing stuff, and he was arguing with me. And then when Trump became president, and all of a sudden things were getting better, the economy got better, gas prices went down, no new wars, stopped wars from happening. You might remember Obama said our number one adversary that we had to worry about at the time was North Korea. What did Trump do? He goes over and talks to the guy. That's the end of that problem. You know, he had the president of China eating like chocolate mousse in his house while he killed somebody, and told him at the time. That's how you do things, right? That's how you do things. And he was saying how he was just saying a lot of stupid stuff to me, and I blocked him after a while. I was like, screw you, man. It didn't matter to me that I was friends with him, and I went to high school with him and everything else. He was deranged. Well, he eventually came out to me, sent me a note. He's like, dude, I apologize. He blamed it on alcohol. It's fine, and I have not let him off the hook actually for it. I don't need it. I don't need him in my life anymore. I'm not even sure I can accept his apology, which I should. It's just the whole thing is it's I'm still holding on to some of this, and I need to let it go. I need to let it go. I'm not irate about it. I'm not losing sleep over this. I'm just blowing off some steam with you guys right now. I'm just saying, many of you owe people an apology. How are we supposed to be friends and build things back together the way it used to be if you don't apologize for being wrong? Supporting the wrong side. Supporting the wrong side. That's all you got to do. And so this is what's happening right now, and it's going to take time. And the thing that's bothering me about friends of mine who would call themselves Republicans or lean to the right, conservatives and that, is the impatience. That's the newest thing. So like they're all like, we need to arrest people now. Like, I get it. I don't disagree with you. But there's stories all the time on this every day. I mean, the FBI was burning files, getting rid of stuff. I mean, there's these people in this deep state and everything else. They've been trying to cover this up. This is like Hillary with her hard drives and everything else. Remember that? When she got rid of all her information? Oh, it was just emails between me and my daughter. What the hell you bleach bit them for, light them up, what the hell they were doing to them? Why'd you do all that if it was just emails with your daughter? You lying bitch. They say whatever they think they can, just get away with it all. Just get away with it all. It's all nonsense. And it aggravates me. Can you tell? Can you tell? Not a happy, fun day today. I'll change the mood for you. I've talked about being observant before. And I want to... This is just funny to me. I got a lot of books on design because when I first got here in the 90s, I had these skills that I have, building furniture and everything. And I'd work with these designers, and I studied a lot of art in school as well, and practical stuff, and I have a lot of flair. And what happened was I got into designing and building theater sets. So I had to study up on things. So I'd get a project, and like I could think of this one, Spaghetti and Apple Pie, it was called. And it was at a big theater here on Sunset Boulevard, which is still there. I forget the name of the theater. And I'm trying to think of the producer's name. She was such a lovely lady, older lady, really pretty too. She had a house in Pasadena. I did a bunch of work on her house. Oh man, it's right there. It'll probably come to me. At any rate, the play took place. It was took place in the 1920s in like a brownstone, like a tenement brownstone in New York City. So I did all this studying and looking up images and everything, and because they would take those, they were townhouses at one time, but then with all the immigration coming in of the Irish and the Italians and all that, the Itais, they all came in. They would divvy up these brownstones into smaller apartments. Like a whole family would live in like one room, and so you'd see like a clawfoot bathtub in the kitchen, and there'd be like they put a board on or a door on it to use as a table, So that's what I did. I recreated like a tenement apartment from New York City in the 1920s. I had running water, I had all vintage parts, I had a real clawfoot tub up there, transom window over the door, everything. Got written up in a bunch of the papers here. It wasn't a story on me, but play got reviewed, and my name is in there for being the set designer and set builder. And so that's just one example. My point is that when I went to college, what I learned about college was I learned I didn't need college. What college did for me was it taught me how to teach myself things. The Marine Corps did that. The Marine Corps is going to teach you how to learn. You're going to learn. You go in there with nothing, you're going to learn how to do stuff. I mean, it was mostly kill people and operate weapons. I was in the infantry, but you learned. You know, you didn't know that shit before you went in. You definitely learned it and know it for the rest of your life afterwards. You know, so you learn how to learn. You go to college and it teaches you how to study and do your own research with things. And so that's what I did when I got out here. So I bought all these books, and this is one of them. There's this picture here, and I want you to screenshot this, and then we're going to talk about it. All right. So you see the bed here? I want you to look at that bed, and I want you to look on the floor. All right here. You're going to see that the floor is kind of rough right there. That's where you get in and out of the bed, right? And then I want you to look where the bed hits the floor, and I want you to notice that there's deep grooves in the floor. That bed's been pushed across the room like, what is that, 8, 10 inches? Well, when you get in and out of your bed, you're in bare feet. Maybe you got socks on or something. There's no reason for the floor to get worn out like that. And why would the bed be being put? You know what I'm getting at here? You know what I'm getting at. Some cowboy with his boots on was nailing his wife bent over on this bed for decades. And that's the only reason that that floor would get worn out and those deep grooves would be in the floor. That's why. I remember, and the reason why I noticed it was I was just studying the bed because I'd like to make myself a bed just like that. You know, 19th century, probably walnut is what I would guess there. Cherry, it's cherry. That makes more sense. But I'd like to make myself a bed like that. But I was studying the bed one day, and I'm looking, why are the grooves there? Why is the floor worn out? And I can actually, in my mind, see this guy dropping trowel, just plowing his wife, you know. These days, it would be his stepdaughter, you know, because that's what everybody's watching. But okay, so I'm just trying to cheer you up there. I had to get all that off my chest because, like I said, I kind of get a little bit solemn. And when I'm kind of solemn, if something sets me off, I'm going to get surly. And when I get surly, look out, man. It's not good. It's not good. You know, I end all my videos with be good, be nice. And I've said this to you many times before. The reason I do that is because while I believe I've always been a good human being, for the most part, I haven't always been nice. Plenty of times I haven't been nice to people, man. Not because I was even purposely trying to not be nice sometimes, you know, or sometimes I was pissed off at somebody or whatever the circumstances were. Sometimes it's appropriate to not be nice, you know, but you should always try to be good. Like, it's funny, I'm having these flashbacks now. Well, we'll go off the rails now a little bit for you guys. So, I mean, this might be hard for some of you to believe. I was a bouncer for years, you know, and I'm not the biggest guy. And back then I was smaller, really. I think I was like 175 pounds or something, 170 pounds. So not a big bouncer. But I could diffuse these fights before they would happen. And all the other guys I worked with were big dudes, over 6 feet tall, well over 200 pounds. So they didn't give a shit. They were talking to girls, trying to collect phone numbers, having a good time, sitting up at the bar talking to people. I always took it seriously, but that's what I did in the Marines, right? I was a security forces Marine, so, you know, I always took it seriously. I was always looking around. I was catching situational awareness, right? These guys didn't care. The fight breaks out. Good, that made them happy. They got to knock heads, knock the crap out of people. I got great stories about smacking the shit out of people. It was fun. It was kind of fun. But I remember the movie Roadhouse, right, with Patrick Swayze, and he says, like, be nice until it's not time to be nice, then be very not nice. That's the way. That's a great lesson for life, man. Be nice, be nice, be nice. Till it's time to not be nice, and then be very not nice. It's funny too. I think about that, like those movies. I remember that movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise. I lived that life. I was a bartender as well. It is weird, uh, all the different things, and I'm not the only one. A lot of you people here, you know what I love? It's very interesting to me. Uh, in my group of people that know me, a lot of them, I mean, we did a lot of different stuff. When we were kids, a lot of us worked on the boardwalk and everything. And of course, I know a lot of people that I worked in nightclubs with, you know. But that's pretty much it. You know, people did that. Then they maybe got married and got themselves like a regular job and raised a family and had kids. I kept bouncing around, doing all these different types of jobs and having a crazy life. And I mean, I was probably, you know, we talked about this before. I was engaging in a lot of behavior I shouldn't have been engaging in because I think I was just trying to kill myself, really. I wasn't a happy person, really. I came off as happy. You might not know that about me when you were around me, but I didn't really want to be here for a long time. And, yeah, but anyhow, I watch all these movies and I think to myself, well, I did that. I did that. It is funny. But then what I love about you guys is the comments I get, a lot of dudes out there who actually did do a lot of the same stuff I did as well. So it's nice to know that there's a lot of other people out there. Thank you for letting me know. That have lived these lives too, that did all these really cool, fun things, crazy things, and lived these great lives, because there's so many people I know in my life that didn't. And then, you know, as they've aged, they're not, a lot of them aren't that happy. A lot of them have all these regrets. I don't have a lot of regrets, man. You know, my regrets are the times when I think about it, probably when I've been not nice to somebody. That's it. But as far as the way I live my life, I like who I am now, and I've had a good time. Of course, I can point to specific moments in my life where if I could go back and talk to myself, be like, hey, idiot, don't do that. Don't touch the cocaine. Do not sleep with that girl. Do not sleep with, do not drink and drive that car. Do not make that left turn. Do not, you know what I mean? Pull your dick out now. Pull it out. Pull it out now. Stop it. There's a lot of things. Don't go with her. Don't do that. Leave your friend's mother alone. there's a ton of stuff that I can look back on and be like, oh man, if I could just talk to myself right there, you know. And of course, man, I wish my dad was still around. There's so many things I'd like to talk to him now about with life. I'll tell you right now, if you're older, if you're 50 years old or older, and your parents are still alive, if you're a guy in particular and your dad's still alive, hopefully you get along with him. At this age, talking to your old man now, because you've lived a life now and you're basically an old man yourself, that's a different level of conversation. It's a different level of understanding. I wish I would have had all that. You know, well, I'm going to talk about my dad a little bit just to kill some time here, because he was awesome. He was a really interesting guy. Came up hard. Born in 1936 in his house, you know, that was built by his grandfather in 1913 in the village that his grandfather created. We've been down this road before. So the first 9 years of his life, 1936, man, hey man, Hitler was in power, or coming into power at that time. And Nazi party thing was happening, and late 30s invading Poland and everything else. And so the first 9 years of his life is just surviving World War II, and he had all these crazy stories. The planes, the German planes, see, before an action, before the infantry come in, planes come through and they strafe. They drop some bombs, they strafe things and all that. And that's also a way for them to, you know, do some recon. They'll fly over and be like, okay, we got these villages here. We see what's going on. You know, maybe we don't see any military activity, whatever. Then the soldiers come. He said the Germans would come through and everybody would go down to the basement. He would go up to the third floor and get out on the balcony to watch, because he thought it was cool seeing the planes with the bullets. And his mom would run up there and pull him off the balcony and get him down in the basement. He had no fear. And he raised me the same, to not be afraid of anything. And the Germans came through. He said he broke free at one point. They corralled all the people in the middle of the village out in front of his house. And He ran, and he said this German shot at him. He shot right in front of him. He said he could hear the bullet crack the air as it went right past him. More than once. Like shot a pistol at him. He shot him in front of him on purpose. The German wasn't actually trying to kill him. That's what he believed. But that was enough for him to stop dead in his tracks and get back over there, you know. And my father's father was the mayor of the town, just as his grandfather had been, who also started the village, you know. Yeah, so 2 pencils a year, 5 crayons or something. He was telling me like at that school. It's like we had to walk to school uphill both ways, 3 miles in the snow, all this stuff. And then I'm there in the '90s, and we walk out the front door of the house. There's a little village, and we walk down the street. It's I don't know, maybe 80 yards or so. And there's this stone building. There's all the scaffolding around it, and you could tell that they're redoing the structure. Like what was this? He goes, oh, that's the school. That's the school? That's the school? 3 miles away, uphill, both ways, in the snow. It's less than a football field away from your front door. he's just big smile on his face, starts laughing. He goes, well, I had to tell you that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have walked to school. Like in the '70s in New Jersey, we had to walk to school, man. And in the mid '70s, late '70s, we had these crazy snowstorms. The freaking snow was up to my nose, man, as a kid. And I was shoveling snow to make money, by the way. So crazy. It's so funny, man. So a funny story with my dad, my sister, Aileen. I love her, man. I mean, you know, she doesn't always make my life easy, but I love her. And there's this funny thing about my dad. There's an area in New Jersey where Route 80 crosses over into Pennsylvania. There's a bridge there, and that area is the Delaware Water Gap. That's where I had my Bigfoot experience. So, so I spent a lot of time there with my father, and he was usually just taking me with him. And we would take my sisters from time to time, like do a camping trip there or whatever. But my father and I went up there together all the time, and we would do everything, you know, fishing, camping, hunting, all seasons, big game, small game, rifle, shotgun, bow, whatever. And when we were camping, we'd sleep on the ground. We wouldn't bring any food. He would bring snare wire, some fishing line, fishing hooks, shit like that, and we would just live in the woods. That was it. We would do a trout line, you know, out in the water, which is a piece of fishing line with a bunch of leaders. A leaders is a short piece of line with a hook. You tie like a dozen of those to it. You find a bunch of worms, insects. You bait all these hooks. You tie it to a little sapling next to the river. Tie the other end to a rock. Throw it in the river. Go about your day. Come back the next morning. You got catfish on the line, whatever the hell else is in there. Steelhead maybe, whatever. Usually it was catfish. He'd set snares. So we'd end up with a rabbit or a raccoon or a squirrel or something. Hey, man, you eat for 3-4 days like that, man. You didn't bring anything. And we're drinking creek water. You know, water come down off the mountain, right out. And the rule was the fast moving water was safe to drink. Never got sick. Never once got sick. Great dude, man. But driving up there on the Jersey side, there's this rock face of this mountain. And there's this concrete barrier because rocks come down, and there's a sign that says falling rock. And my dad had this joke. You have dad jokes. A lot of dads think that they're funny, but they're just corny. But to them, they're really friggin' funny. It's my dad. So he used to tell me a falling rock, and I didn't fall for it. He's like, yeah, falling rock. There's that Indian up there. You gotta watch out for that Indian. He's known to throw rocks down and crush cars. I'm like, who you think you're talking to, Dad? You know, I'm like 8 years old. Like, I'm not falling for that. I'm not. What? And he would just laugh. Well, flash forward 10 years or so, and it's my dad's driving his Lincoln, you know, and my little sister Aileen is between us, and I'm sitting here. We're all in the front seat. It's before seatbelt laws, you know. And so we're cruising along there, and my little sister at the time, and I'm 11 years older than her, right? So she was pretty small, and she's looking out the window. And she wasn't that little, though. She was probably like 10 years old, 10 years old. Old enough to know better, right? And she's looking. Dad's driving the car. She's looking, and I'm like, I don't know what she's looking at, but she's a little kid. I'm not really interested. I'm talking to my dad. She's like, Michael, have you ever seen Falling Rock? I don't know what she means at first. And I'm like, have I ever seen Falling Rock? And then I look at my dad, and my dad's driving a car. I can see the side of his face. He's driving a car, and he's not looking, but he's trying not to break a big smile, you know. And I look at my little sister. I'm like, Falling Rock, you fell for Falling Rock? Are you kidding me? And I'm like, Dad, what? And he just starts laughing, and I start laughing, and she did not understand. I'm telling you, this is the thing about women. You can make them believe anything, you know. So the problem with the left, like, it's not everybody. The problem is, and by the way, if you never marry, you don't have any kids, I'm not holding that against you. Nobody's judging you for that. But single, childless women, most of whom own a bunch of animals and cats, you know, and had this piercing right here and dyed her head purple and blue and everything else, that's the problem. They're the people that are the problem. And they will just believe anything. You just tell them anything on that side. They're just going to believe it. Fortunately, my sister's not one of those people. But she did believe in Falling Rock. It's a great joke. We to this day, we still laugh about it. I know this video's a little off today because of the way I started it. But it's because I want you to understand the Memorial Day thing. You know, this is everybody watching this video right now. If you're still watching, I don't know if anybody's still watching. This has not been very entertaining. I might have been bumming you out. I don't mean to bum you out, but we all have somebody in our lives and or family, especially if you really trace it back. If you could trace your bloodline back, there's no doubt people in your life have died at the hands of another human being, you know? And I want to believe that in most cases it's been a righteous thing, like it was for a good cause or something. But as I also got into, with all the lies about everything else, we've been brought into a lot of war that we didn't need to be brought into. And a lot of people died in those wars. And that's the sad part about it. And that's the stuff I think about on Memorial Day. I think about all the people that did not come back. And I think about all the stories I heard as a kid. My dad would get upset just talking about young guys that he knew that worked for him at the bake shop, you know, in Seaside, that didn't come back from Vietnam. And he would even later in life, he would think about them. He'd get choked up talking about it. And all the stuff he lived through and the stuff that he saw at the hands of communism. The socialists, he called them. I've told that story before. That was a rough one, man. He only told me that story 3 or 4 times in my life, but every single time he did, he couldn't control himself. Just the tears would run down his face, which was... You see, he was part of this thing. They call it... Well, I have this belt buckle from it. It looks like the Boy Scout emblem, and it's called the Boys Army in Greek. You guys could look this up. It's pretty. I looked it up years ago. There's probably more information on it now. They took 2 boys from every village. That's the way he worded it. Probably wasn't every single village, but they basically took a couple of young boys from every village, sent them to Athens for training, and they participated during the Greek Civil War. And they were trained by British and American, SAS and OSS. And that's how he knew how to survive. As a matter of fact, is it here? I don't want to walk away from the screen. Let me just jump up real quick. Bear with me. Yeah, I don't have a copy of it right here, so I apologize. But the SAS Survival Manual, they make a pocket version. Everything he taught me, spring snares with saplings and the trout lines and all these things, we call it bushcraft today. It's a bushcraft thing, they call it. You know, you'll watch bushcraft videos on YouTube. I had never seen that book before. And, well, years ago I stumbled upon it. 25 years ago or something. Or longer. the point is, when I opened that book, I started thumbing through it. It was picture perfect, exactly the way my father taught me, because that's how he was taught when he was 9 friggin' years old. And the thing is when you listen to his stories and what he went through, and you realize they were basically like Green Berets, because that's what Green Berets do, right? It's what Green Berets did in Vietnam. They worked with the Montagnards in Vietnam. It's basically, Green Berets go in and they go behind the lines and they work with indigenous peoples and they train them and arm them and they work with them to fight the enemy from within. And what they were doing there is they were training these kids, and then they were supposed to go back to their villages and then train other people in the village. That's what they were supposed to do. And so the Greek Civil War was all about, at the end of World War II, was Russian expansionism, right? So it's the problems we're having today with Putin and Ukraine and all this all happened at the end of World War II, because all those what we would call Eastern Bloc European countries became part of the Soviet Union. And the Soviets were also trying to encroach wherever they could for a while, probably a good solid 5 years. From 1945 to 1950, that was the Greek Civil War. And so that's what they were doing. And my father always referred to them as the socialists. And so they were coming down through Yugoslavia and all these other countries, but they got into Greece as well. And they would come through and they would they corral the village together, and they would take the priest, the school teacher, the mayor, if there was the police chief, whatever, and they would murder them in front of the whole village and then move on. So they were basically killing all the authority. And so my dad's father was the mayor, and my dad had just come home. He's like 14 years old at this time, been gone for 4 years, 13, 14 years old. He'd already been to war. And I don't know if he's on a list or whatever, but for sure they were looking for his dad. So him and his dad got wind that they were coming through, and they got away. They went up in the hills and hid. And they hid at this place. My dad brought me there. There's this area up there above the village. It's a really interesting spot. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of like a hole in the ground, but it's not a hole. It's a big area. It's like a football field, but the ground around it is higher. And you can come down from this end down there, and you can come in this end here, and it's somewhat boomerang shaped. There's these kind of like a cliff kind of. You're about 15, 20 feet down off the regular ground there, and there's like these overhangs where the whole village could sleep under there and be out of the rain. And now it's concrete, but there's a natural spring there, water right in the middle of it. So the guys that do the sheep still bring the sheep up there. So we went there, and that's where him and his dad went to hide from the Germans. And when they came back to the village, they found the body parts of his priest, his school teacher, his uncle, who had been an officer in the Greek army. The socialists killed him in front of the village, and then they hacked him into pieces and piled the body parts in front of his house. So that's a pretty shitty thing to have to see, And then that's when his parents made the decision to put him on a boat by himself to America. So, it's not that bad for me. I didn't have to experience that, but it was bad for him. And I heard these stories and many others, and so I understood what my dad went through. And and he loved this country. And again, he became a naturalized citizen, and his grandfather used to come here, and he tiled the Lincoln Tunnel, worked in New York City, loved this country. Matter of fact, I got his watch. Finally, this thing, my dad gave me this watch when I was young, and it was busted, and it had a acrylic lens on it, and you couldn't really see through it too much. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, but it didn't work. I should set it. But anyhow, it's a Technos. It's a Swiss watch. And anyhow, I found it in a box after I started hanging out at the watch shop here, and I brought it into Mike, and Mike put a new crystal on it, cleaned it up a bit, didn't try to restore. He says you can't screw with the dial. It's got copper hands on it. It's got the second sub dial, but pretty cool. So that was my great grandfather's watch right there. And that's the guy that made my father love this country so much. And again, to become a naturalized citizen, you got to study, take all those tests, and naturalized citizens end up becoming more knowledgeable about this country and how the government works and everything else. And my dad was always big about like the fixes in on everything, and my dad was, well, you don't know, but my dad had connections, with the mobsters in Jersey. And we're getting too long here, but my godmother's father was a mobster. And so he owned these diners that my dad used to work in. They used to run the numbers out. I've told these stories before about the stuff falling off the back of a truck. He was always coming home, unexpected gift at the unexpected time. And so whenever, like when it came to sports, like we watched a lot of sports. Baseball was his big thing, but football was a thing too. But he was always looking at the game. He'd be like, that guy's getting paid. Like he just knew it takes one guy on a team, man. One guy on a team to drop a ball at the right time. So he was very cynical about that. As a matter of fact, I don't think he ever, I think that was his rule. He didn't bet on sports. The racetrack was a different story. The ponies, going to the racetrack, horses was, I think he did dogs too. And he could gamble. He's a really good card player. And he was good at any game in a bar. The best, actually. Pool, pinball. He'd take me to the bar. He was always taking me to the bar. As a little kid, there's stories of me in diapers running up and down the bar at Cella's Ship's Bar in Seaside Park. Has been gone forever. But so it was no surprise I ended up working in nightclubs for years and becoming a bartender. Because I kind of grew up in bars with my dad. He'd put a quarter in a pinball machine, slap that thing around, win a bunch of free games. Then that was it. He'd go sit at the bar, have a bunch of beers, talking with his friends, and I'd just be over there as a kid playing pinball. That was Patterson, some joint on Union Ave somewhere. I can't remember the name of it anymore. So anyhow, I love my father. He was a patriotic American. He loved his country, and but he saw through all the bullshit too. And that's maybe, well, not maybe. There's no maybe about it. I guess I never really thought about it till right this second. He's the reason my brain works. Thanks, Dad. I love you. And for the rest of you, I hope you're enjoying your Memorial Day, and I hope you remember what it's all about. It's the people. It's about the people that didn't come back. And, a lot of people didn't come back. But they created the country, man. And remember, it's less than 3% of the country usually. Maybe up to 3% of the country actually has the gumption to take up arms and be willing to believe in something bigger than themselves. And unfortunately, not to be overly cynical, unfortunately, sometimes the whole thing's based on bullshit, and that's what sucks. And I don't know, maybe one day we can get past the bullshit. If we just tell the truth all the time, just tell the truth. That's all we want, right? The truth. Sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes the truth is hard to swallow. But let's just get to telling the truth. And you got to hold the media, you got to hold their feet to the fire for lying to us. And those of you who went along with it and keep going along with the lies, you've got to pull your friggin' head out of your ass. And when somebody hits you with something that sounds you like a conspiracy theory because you never heard it before, because you're just watching television or reading the New York Times and you're just believing what's in there, and that's what it is to you, maybe now that the truth is coming out, maybe now, from time to time, when you hear something that doesn't jive with what you're seeing, maybe you'll put the time into looking into that. I hope you do. I hope you do, because it's the only way we can make the whole planet better is by just telling the truth. So that's it. Have a good day. I hope you're enjoying your Memorial Day, and it'll be lighter next week, I promise. Yeah, I'll try to make you laugh next time. All right. Be good. I'll catch you in the next one.